I'm Renny Hartman, and today I'm going to talk about Linda Castillo's Fallen, a novel set in Painters Hills in Ohio. It's an Amish community, and there are several books that she has written. One has been made for TV movie, and her main character is a Kate Burkholder, and she is chief of police in this little town. And most of her cases do involve the Amish, so there's a tremendous amount of background on the Amish. And I find that interesting because in New Jersey we are close to Amish in Pennsylvania. And I had a cousin who lived in Spencerville, Indiana, a small town that also had a large Amish population. And some of the things were quite unusual there. I was there one time in the spring when we had a snowstorm, and the Amish women would be out in the horse and buggy holding the umbrella in front of them and not over their heads. The men would have an umbrella over their heads. And my cousin said their bishop said that women could not put anything over their heads, so they couldn't put the umbrella over their heads. And in Fallen, we are talking about someone who fell from the Amish. Burkholder herself left the fold, came back later as a police person, and so she speaks the language, which is a form of Dutch, German, and she understands what is required and what the bishops want, and how the situation works, and she has to be often very delicate. Members of her family are still Amish. Her brother and his family is still Amish. But they do have a period for young teenagers to go out and be wild just a little bit to decide if they want to be permanently in the fold or not in the fold. And in this particular book, there is a young woman who could never be controlled. She did not behave. She was not a quiet little girl. She smoked. She went out and drank. She dated boys, the Englishers, who were not Amish, and got herself into some sticky situations, one of which was having a child out of wedlock that comes out in the book. But she comes back. She has come back in the beginning of the book for some reason and ends up being horrendously murdered, beaten to a pulp with a baseball bat. And so that is the situation that Kate has to face. And she brings in her own significant other who works for kind of the state troopers for Ohio. And she deals with the feds, the FBI. And I find interesting in the books that I'm reading at the moment that are almost all mysteries, that they are spreading out. Even in the Stanford series, the Prey series, now they almost always involve more than one character and one situation, and bring in all kinds of other agencies, which is interesting to see how in the world the legal system and law really does work. It takes a tremendous amount of effort and a tremendous amount of money. The only thing I ever disliked about this series is that usually at the end, Kate ends up being kidnapped or in a hostage situation or somewhere where she has to be saved by somebody else instead of just saving herself, which kind of weakens the feminist application that is most of the book, because she is a woman alone. She's not married, and she lives her life completely independently, and is on her own and has to deal with really unusual and sometimes very difficult situations. And the contrast between the so-called normal society and the way Amish live without electricity, normally without combustion engine. They are living in a time of about 250 years ago, at least 150 years ago, that is not changed all that much. And for instance, I don't know if in Ohio, but in Pennsylvania, the students only have to attend school to 8th grade. They don't have to continue on into high school or go to college, which many don't. And my cousin out in Indiana very much liked living surrounded by the Amish community, where they actually had a couple covered bridges. We didn't use them for cars, but if you had a horse, you could go through the covered bridges. And he said that the Amish were perfect business people and neighbors, because whatever they said was their word. And for instance, if someone came to do work on your place, my cousin had a farm he called Bailey after Tom's River, New Jersey. He said whatever deal you made with a handshake, and they stood with it absolutely, completely. You never had to question them at all, and you never had to be afraid somebody was in the house, and if you had money or something valuable in a house, that while they were working there, they would take it. And he just thought they were uh, wonderful people to be with, although he said he didn't think he would want to be in the fold because it was restrictive. Okay, thank you. And that's my talk on the fallen.